Hi guys, this is Bernie at Bernie's House Painting. Last week we covered products that we use on our repaints. We went through all the interior and exterior paints that we like to use on our projects. What I want to do this week is kind of lead you in a direction where if you're doing your own project, you go to the paint store and you're wondering what tools you should buy. Some of the stuff that we use, some of the stuff we don't use. I kind of did a basic idea of what we have, what we use on a project here. Not everything is here, but I did the best I could to kind of show you what you would need if you're painting your own room. So that's where I'm going with this today is you go to the paint store, you're going to paint your bedroom. What do I need start to finish? So your standard runner is 4 foot wide. What I like to do is kind of set it against the floor, and I'll use maybe half the width because all I'm trying to do is set it against the wall and catch the splatter when you're rolling. I'm not trying to cover the whole floor. This is the area I'm working in. This is what I'm looking to protect when I'm doing the wall. So you have the basic runner, 4 foot wide, and then you have the standard drop cloth, and they go up to 15 foot wide. So that's to protect your area. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get your plastic. Now they have a couple different sizes as well. Your Visqueen, you go into the paint store and you've got to cover stuff. Visqueen, this is the real thin 0.3 millimeter stuff, and this will cover everything without being heavy on it, so it tips it over, so you can put it over lamps and you can put it over pictures on the wall and tack it, stuff like that. This is what you want. So now you've protected everything. You may also find that you need some tape. You may have some stuff that you need to do where you can protect against the corners, or you're going to tape some windows. A homeowner may need to use a little bit more tape than the standard painter. It's okay. It doesn't tack and damage as much as painter's tape does. So this is, as a homeowner, this is probably what you're looking for, is the blue tape, because you can use it on almost everything and it's not going to hurt the surfaces that you're sticking it to. So now you've pretty much got your protection on the house. You've got your drop cloth, your plastic, your tape, you've got everything covered, and now you're ready to paint. What's the next step? This is really good because you do have a small project. You don't necessarily need to reuse this. You can throw it away if you want. You can stick it on a shelf somewhere later. So you're gonna pour your paint up in here. You've got your paint tray. You got your roller frame. You need a roller frame. You've got a roller cover. Now here, I just grabbed 2 different roller covers. I grabbed what we use, standard lamb's wool, sheepskin, and then we've got this is a Purdy Colossus. Now, the thing about both these, something to know when you're going buying, if you ever seen a house and it's covered in little tiny splatters when they're rolling the walls, it tends to be the quality of the roller cover that they're using. What's really nice about a lambskin is it doesn't spit much at all. More than anything, if you get paint when you're rolling on a wall or something from lambskin, it's going to be a drop that comes off it. It's usually not that splatter. If you buy some of those microfiber or the cheap Surefabs or whatever they're called, and you're rolling a wall, you're going to have a lot of spatter everywhere, and it becomes a mess. So it's really easy to just step up a couple dollars, buy a good quality roller cover. The Colossus is the same thing. You do get a little spatter, but these are really good for our larger projects because you can wash them out and use them over and over and over and over. I mean, they last a long time, whereas the lambskins burn up a little bit faster. So for your projects, I'd like to say if you buy a good quality roller cover, it saves you a lot of headache later. And then of course you've got your roller frame. Roller frames don't matter. The biggest thing about your roller frame, you buy a cheap roller frame, is make sure that it's going to attach to the roller pole that you may need. Because look, you're rolling a wall and you can only get so far, you can't get all the way up. So you need to have a roller pole. Standard roller pole, most painters use, they'll have a 2 to 4. This would be a 2 to 4. They have a smaller one. They have a 1 to 2. They have 4 to 8, 6 to 12. They have different sizes. So this is a 2 to 4. 2 to 4 means it starts at 2 foot. It extends out to 4 foot reach. Put that on your roller frame. You're good to go. Now these Purdy systems, they lock on and they're pretty solid. Wooster has the same thing. It's got a little knob on the end and it just slides on, locks on the same thing. The thing is not all roller frames have that system. So you may have a standard, just a basic cheap roller frame. It's okay. If that's the case, good old wooden roller pull. Nothing wrong with a good roller pull. What's nice in a handy pinch, you get in trouble and your roller pull is not working, you can go steal one off the broom and use it. It's fine. It's just a wooden roller pull. So you've got your prep set up, you've got your roller stuff set up. The last thing I'll say about rolling, when we talk about painters, this is more what painters tend to use. Not necessarily the Sherwin-Williams label, but the bucket and a grid. So here's the deal. I'm going to step out here real quick. So here's what we're using. Now, you're not painting a bedroom. You're painting a whole living room and kitchen. You're going to be in the same color. This is where this is beneficial. You can pour up a couple gallons of paint into this. You got your roller frame. You can put it in here and you roll. It's simple. On your roller pull, you roll into the paint, you're good to go. So you don't have this little tray you got to move around. It's flimsy, everything else. You're going on to the next section, you just move it. So this is how painters do, and they do some production stuff. A lot of people don't know that this roller grid and bucket are available, but when you walk in there, they're right there by the roller trays, and it's easy, and it's actually, those grids are cheaper, so why not? Cup pot. You need a cup pot to work out of. So you can take a paint can, you can work out of your paint can. If you pour it up, you've got half a can left and work out of it, or you can grab a cup pot. Pretty simple. Before we jump into brushes here, we'll go through something else. Prep on your walls. So when we're prepping out a house to paint, you're going to have nail holes, you're going to have cracks and windows, everything else that needs caulked and puttied. Lightweight spackle. There's a lot of other options on the counter when you're looking at the shelf there, and you'll see some regular spackle, and you're going to see most of that stuff you don't need. If you can get away with just a lightweight spackle. It's shrink free. So you take another thing, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. We go to 5-in-1 and a putty knife. So you'll see people and they'll take their putty and they'll wipe it on the wall, and then they've got this big thick glob called a glob of spackle on the wall. And what's nice with the spackle is you can take a little bit on your finger and you can just fill that hole, level it out, and when it dries it doesn't shrink. The hole's gone, and you don't have a mess that you've got to sand or wipe down or anything else. You're ready to go. Caulk. Typically we're using a 950A. We do use some of the higher quality products. This is kind of our standard. This is a 55-year caulk. Either way, you need caulk for cracks that are going to stretch. So around windows, around doors, around baseboards, check all that stuff. And you want to do that before you paint. So you set up your drop cloths, your rollers, your everything else. You're getting ready to paint. You need to spackle and you need to caulk as fast as you can, because that needs to dry before you paint. Now you're ready to get into your cut-in stuff. Caulk gun. Go back to a caulk gun. This is a dripless caulk gun. So the old caulk guns that everybody's used to have a little trigger right here. So you'd squeeze it, and then if you didn't push that trigger, it just keep coming out the end of the tube. Most of the painters now use a dripless caulk gun. So it's real easy. You put your tube inside there and you pull the trigger, and when you let go, it doesn't come out the end. So you can just kind of flow with it. Makes it easier. I think most people are familiar with this, but I did want to show you in case you don't know. And that is kind of a standard tool of the trade for painters. The last thing you're going to get into on your prep side of stuff, you spackled, you caulked, you got some doors, baseboard that you're going to be painting. Sanding sponges. This is the easy way to do it. You don't need sandpaper. You don't have to get down there and wear your fingers out. You grab a sanding block and you can buff it all. It's easy to hold on to. They last a long time and they're cheap. Very important tool of the trade. Now we get into brushes. You need a brush. You need more than one brush most likely. Now, You can buy the cheap packs of paintbrushes, and if it's a small project, you're not going to be painting again, you're probably okay. You'll get away with what you need. But if you're looking at saving your brush, you're going to be doing more work, buy a good quality brush. There's a caveat to this right in a minute, but I went shopping at Sherwin-Williams. This is what we've got. Purdy brushes. So now we call this a wall brush. It holds a little bit more paint. So you need a little bit more paint. When you're running on the wall and you're running the top, you want to come down on your wall. So you have to have enough room left. You have to have enough room left on the wall for your roller to come up and hit that wet edge. So when you're cutting in underneath something, you need to come down a little bit. Good wall brush is important. When you're done, just wash it out. Take it out of the water hose, wash it out. Wash it out with some warm soapy water in the sink, that's fine. When you're done, lay it flat. Don't ever do this, because any residue that's left in here will sink down into the bottom, and after a while your brush is no good. It's got to keep it in your keeper. As long as you can keep that keeper, most of us lose them really quick. The next thing is a good trim brush. So a wall brush is different. When you're running in trim paint, your trim paint lays down differently than wall paint, because it's made to be an enamel and look different on trim. So you're going to want a good trim brush. Now I don't really prefer an angled brush. This would be an angled sash. Not really what I prefer. I like a straight trim brush. The difference is a trim brush doesn't hold as much paint, but what it does have is it does have softer tips on the brushes, so that and they're smaller, so that when you're laying off your trim with the paint, it lays down nice. So tools of the trade brushes: wall brush, trim brush. There are a lot of different kinds. Pick what you need. There's a lot of different sizes. They go up from 4 inches. They go all the way down to, I've seen 1.5 inches. They got little artist brushes, but the standard size is going to be like a 3.5 inch wall brush, and maybe a 2 or 2.5 inch trim brush. And then, last couple little things is speaking of the brush, I actually just have to throw this in there. I do use a 3.5 inch. I like a 3.5 inch Corona brush. I prefer a Corona brush, but I didn't have access to a new one. It's a wall brush that holds a lot of paint. Purdy has some brushes that are almost the same quality. I just don't think that they're there. So that's just an honest truth. But for the project that you're doing, this should work. The last two things I would show you. So you've got your shopping list. You're collecting all your stuff that you need. You probably don't need all of this. There's going to be different things you might. You've got a door, right? You've got a flat panel door, or you've got a cabinet you're painting or something like that. Your mini roller. Most people are familiar with the mini roller. The difference is same thing. They have a small tray, and you can get the small tray and you work out of that, or you can get this little grid and it goes inside your cut pot. And then you just take your, you take your roller cover and you dip out of your paint right there. It's easy. So roll your door, wash it off just like your roller frame or your roller cover, and you can keep it for later use. And then the final step, now you've painted everything, you roll up the drop cloths, you clean everything up, and you realize there's a little bit of paint on the floor. It's okay. We have Durtex. Now you can use Windex. This is a commercial grade, I guess we call it a commercial grade window cleaner. We use this a lot to clean up after ourselves. Accidents happen. Spatter happens. Drips happen. Best painters, it happens. A little bit of Durtex, spray it on, grab your rags, wipe it up. Easy enough. If the paint is dry, you might have to scrape a little bit. Shouldn't have to if you catch it right away.